This is the current state of the Orange palette. We're done with the bulk of the navigation. We just need to address the paragraphs, the columns of text that need to sit in specific spots sort of underneath and follow these columns. And then there's an image that will sit in here. Now, the current state of the text is it's doing what it expects to do. There's a lot of floating happening here. There's some floats here. There's a float left on this list now, and it's trying to sneak up here if it can. This is an extra piece of code that maybe purists would say is not needed, but I think it's just going to make it easier for you when it comes time to continue to write these rules. And what I'm going to do is isolate all of the remaining text. So I'm in my code, and I'll put div id equals text or bottom or something to just sort of indicate that everything else. And when that paragraph, that last paragraph ends, I'm going to come in and end the div tag. Okay. And I'm going to write a rule for that, and the only purpose of the rule will be for it to clear all of that previous floating that had happened. So text and box category clear both. Okay. So now it's a little bit easier to get a handle on. At least it's not trying to move up next to this navigation, which was really weird. All right, so we're getting there. Although now we need 3 separate columns in here, 2 for the text and 1 for the photo. So we are going to need to, inside of that new text div, break up that information even further. So the first paragraph, let me find that in my text, we'll go into a div tag and we'll ID that first. And that. The second paragraph will go into a div with the ID of second. And we will end that. I want to make sure that I'm ending in the right spot here. It's a little bit confusing. I should have, when I put everything in the text, it would have been helpful for me to put the comment of ending text, but I didn't. But this ending div tag has to come right here. And I will take a moment and tidy this up a bit. So if this is the end of my first, let me just pop in a comment. And first, here's the ending of the second. And this then is the end of the text itself. So luckily I had remembered that, but it can really screw you up, especially when you get towards the end of your document and all of the div tags are starting to end. It can be very, very confusing and frustrating. So do as I say and not as I do, and try to get those ending comments in there immediately. Okay, well, let's write then the rules that will get these div tags into place. I know that I need a div tag called first. And what will it do? Well, it needs to float to the left. And I'm just taking a guess at the width of it for right now. We'll try 170. And in fact, we can hit apply. Oh no, it's much wider than that. 190. Maybe more. Trying to match the width of this photo as if the photo were a column. Maybe less. Okay. The other thing that I'm going to do is try to push these columns apart from each other. So the margin on the right, I'm just going to plug in 10 for the time being. Okay. So for now, you can see it starting to take place. It may not be perfect in the numbers, but I can go back and adjust that later. Another new rule then for the rule or the second div. And I'm going to use the same properties, 190, float to the left, and a bit of margin on the right. Okay, so that one's in the right place. Now there's a photo that needs to sit here, and the photo currently is not in place and there's no div tag for it. So let's make the div tag for it to go into first. So here's where I will benefit myself now from having created all of these nice ending comments. I'm going to make the new div tag after the second div tag has ended. And I will call this div ID equals third, just keeping in my naming scheme. I will end that comment and third. Okay. It may be difficult to see where it is at this point because it doesn't have a style on it yet, so there's no place for me to really get the image. I'm going to come in and in the code then make sure that my cursor is inside of the beginning and the ending div tag. Insert image, find my camera, Alt, text, click OK, and there's the camera. So there it is. Now it's fine, there's nothing wrong with that, but I would actually like this camera to sort of move up and jut into this open space that's left over by Paint not having three options. So I'm going to once again employ the idea of the negative margin. I need to create a div tag for third, or a div rule rather. So pound sign or hash mark third, and this should also float to the left. And for the margin, negative margin on the top, and that will raise it up out of the text parent container that it's sitting in. So let's try negative 30. Okay, and maybe even a little bit more. I mean, that's something that you can decide on your own with your own layout. But that's it. We are done with the orange palette. Take a preview in the browser. Now the footer, yeah, it's not really very well styled. I'm not too concerned about that. I know that I could style it, and in fact, in an earlier class, I mentioned that this isn't even set up right. It should have started as a list. Minimally, I may want to go in to the footer div, edit, and just do some pretend things like block, text align, center. Maybe I'll say that the text should be white just to kind of give it a bit more of a polish. Okay, and that footer, you could put margin on the top to push it down, but we're done.